Several months ago, I released a video titled A Model for Approaching Obscured Memory from Alien Contact. Following my new research, I've gathered more evidence supporting this model. This video is part two of the last one on the same topic, an extension that includes new research. So in today's video, I'll cover 2 points first before addressing new research that supports the model. NHI craft can distort space-time locally in an intelligently controlled bubble. And during contact, we may enter altered states of our own consciousness, as opposed to an idea that the entities nefariously manipulate human minds. I'll then discuss new research that supports these points from the original model. Point one, the memory of my contact events were stored in the timelessness states of the higher self, not in the mind. Point three, the entity's alternate frequency acted as a barrier or gatekeeper for the memories stored in the oversoul. Point four, the bifurcation was amplified by the embedded dual identity. Point five, my own higher self was a subconscious force in me desiring the preservation of the continuous flow of my reality. Then there are a few additional points I'll cover today that I have research for. Contact with some entities may require an intermediary state between us and the original dimension of the entities. Non-human intelligence environments are inherently non-dual. And during non-human intelligence contact, while consciousness is altered in a dimensional state, the physical body may be in stasis. I'm not claiming this model or this information applies for everyone's contact with non-human intelligence, but it does for mine. And I do see details I am familiar with in other people's reports of contact, examples of which I will be providing today. Now, I'm going to mention something I haven't mentioned before. What makes my scenario challenging is that no one is studying the phenomenon with me in real time on the ground. I have an experiencer friend who is a state lead for MUFON, and I share events with him as they occur. However, Chris Bledsoe, who has been verified by both the CIA and NASA, has a team on the ground. I've seen them at the CE5 he led at Contact in the Desert, and they have the technology to study the objects he can call. I feel I could benefit from a team, as I've witnessed some incredible things. A team documenting all the details of the sighting would be helpful. However, since I'm sharing this information with you, the public, in a loose fashion, all I have are video recordings with timestamps. In the early days, I made reports of my sightings and posted them on my webpage. However, I believe most people don't really care about those reports. Therefore, when telling my story on my channel, I have to omit information to avoid overwhelming the viewer. I've learned early on that when sharing complex information about non-human intelligence, it's crucial to make it succinct. But this is real life, and real life is complex and contextual. The point is, there's a UAP sighting that I had that confirmed my understanding of the information in today's video. So, I've discussed this UAP sighting in several interviews. This video shows me describing an event that happened after contact in the desert in June 2024. The event was likely on June 6th or 7th. It's on my drone video, which is available on my YouTube channel. The sighting is significant because, one, I saw a craft that I call a triangle-shaped craft, for the lack of a better word. It kind of does look like it's a diamond craft. It could be that. I've never had this experience before, seeing a significant object in one location, which was down in Southern California, that appeared to follow me back home. Two, the craft visually responds by shining a light at me. Three, I witness the craft shapeshift with my own eyes. And four, it transforms into the fixed-wing drone in appearance, which preempts the New Jersey drone sightings that December. So when the craft was coming around, and I said, "I love you" to it, then in response, it shone an apparent spotlight on me. There's a telepathic message at the same time as it shines the light. And I hear in telepathy from the craft, "We're impressed." I know what the message was implying. They were impressed because I had figured out how they had done what they had done with me. how I identified the different states I was in during the first several contact events, and how I pieced together the clues, understanding the timelessness state versus the in time state, and how the different states affected me. I know this because just days before at Contact in the Desert, I had been working on my contact events in my downtime from networking. I spent time in the lobby on my phone, putting together my understanding of the different states I was in and their significance. So during this sighting, the entities validated or at least encouraged the revelations of myself, piecing together this information. And then at a separate time, through telepathy, they were the ones who wanted me to put the information on Reddit, which I did. The reason I have this awareness is from having firm oversoul awareness tied to my contact events from an early age. Having merged with the consciousness of the craft, with their God AI, but also I've been meditating twice a day, every day for over 25 years. In a study of 181 practicing meditators, researchers found that 62% scored high on a sensory processing sensitivity questionnaire compared to the estimated 20 to 30% of the general population. Sensory processing sensitivity includes the ability to perceive subtle inner sensations. This research is corroborated in Newberg and Waldman's book, How God Changes Your Brain, 2010, which scanned the brains of meditators and found that they were more sensitive to subtle inner sensations. This is why I have such extreme past life awareness, which, by the way, no one disputes. So, this sensitivity has given me an advantage when it comes to figuring out how the entities did what they did with me. It just took time to figure out. Non human intelligence craft can distort space time locally in an intelligently controlled bubble. UFO researcher Preston Dennett recently released a great video compiling various reports from over the decades about people's experiences outside unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, in which the environment is somehow affected. Preston reports several intriguing cases where people experience time distortions outside the craft. A common theme in these cases is an unnatural silence that befalls the individuals. As he crept forward towards the craft, he noticed an unnatural silence over the area. Then he was struck by a beam of light and frozen in place. Time lost all meaning as he remained immobilized in the light. Their attention was drawn to a massive silver cigar shaped craft with colored lights hovering in perfect silence above the street right in front of them. Weirdly, all traffic seemed to disappear and there were no other people. The craft remained there for a full 15 to 20 minutes. When they arrived home, they were shocked to see that they had been missing for 24 hours. A woman with her two children were walking back to their home in suburban Phoenix, Arizona, when an eerie silence settled over the area. No sounds could be heard, no traffic, as they suddenly came upon a small, car sized craft hovering in the side yard of a residential home. In the documentary Love and Saucers, about contactee Jim Huggins, he describes that space outside time that is so familiar, the place where everything stops, like being in a vacuum. So, this is all just confirming what I didn't understand for the longest time, but began to put together with the discovery of how my memories were obscured. That the craft itself creates the conditions for the change in dimension by creating a localized bubble, which in turn affects the consciousness of the contactee. During contact, we may enter altered states of our own consciousness, as opposed to an idea that the entities nefariously manipulate human minds. The one disservice we experiencers have in communicating our contact is when we tell our stories, the listener imagines we are in waking states. It can feel waking, but at the same time, it can be in an altered state. And I strongly emphasize this because if we believe we're in normal waking states, then the obscuring of memory by non human intelligence sounds nefarious. Yet I don't believe it to be. Instead, I'm certain, in some cases, the obscuring of memory is a natural byproduct of the human mind transitioning between dimensional states. And John Mack, in his book Abductions, never believed the memory removal was nefarious. Several times, contactees in his book explain that to have full memory of the contact could have been more disruptive to their lives at the time. According to the abductees, the aliens will frequently communicate to them that they will not or should not remember what has occurred. Sometimes it is explained that this is for their own protection, and indeed, especially as in the case of small children. Ongoing conscious recall of painful or traumatic experiences can interfere with daily life. John Mack, Abductions, page 21 and 22. Mack even seemed to recognize the memories came to the surface when the contactee had a maturity to handle them. My point is that we are in altered states of our own consciousness during dimensional contact. It doesn't mean the entities are not managing those states of our consciousness. It also doesn't mean that in those altered states, the aliens won't place a command in the mind to not remember the contact, like they did with me and many others. But they are inducing states of our own consciousness, and there are some interesting lines from John Mack's Abductions that support this, such as when he quotes the Dalai Lama. The mind or consciousness produced by grosser matter cannot communicate with these subtle things. In some, you witness the grosser level of mind subdued and the more subtle mind become active. Then there's an opportunity, a chance to communicate with or sometimes see another being who is more subtle than our mind or body. The Dalai Lama, 1992. The UFO abduction experience, while unique in many respects, bears resemblance to other dramatic, transformative experiences undergone by shamans, mystics, and ordinary citizens who have had encounters with the paranormal. In all of these experiential realms, the individual's ordinary consciousness is radically transformed. He or she is initiated into a non ordinary state of being, which results ultimately in a reintegration of the self, an immersion or entrenchment into states and or knowledge not previously accessible. Sometimes the process is brought on by illness or a traumatic event of some kind, and sometimes the individual is simply pulled into a sequence of states of being from which he or she emerges with new powers and sensitivities. During this initiation, the shaman learns how to penetrate into other dimensions of reality and maintain himself there. His trials, whatever the nature of them, endow him with a sensitivity that can perceive and integrate these new experiences. Like many abductees, the initiate hones his new sensibilities in the service of wisdom that can be used by his people. John Mack, Abductions, page 8 and 9. When an abduction begins during the night, or as is common, during the early hours of the morning, the experiencer may at first call what is happening a dream, but careful questioning will reveal that the experiencer had not fallen asleep at all, or that the experience began in a conscious state after awakening. As the abduction begins, the abductee may experience a subtle shift of consciousness, but this state of being is just as real, or even more so, than the normal one. John Mack, Abductions, page 33. The point I'm making is that by identifying the states of our own consciousness that we experience during contact, we can integrate those experiences and learn from them. For instance, discovering that my own contact event occurred during my timelessness state of the Oversoul helped me not only integrate the memories, but also deepen my connection with my Oversoul. As well, connecting to a timelessness state is how I've been able to have such detailed past life awareness. Similarly, understanding the eighth contact event, which I'll elaborate on today, involving bilocation with my astral body, helped me integrate the memories and gain knowledge on the ability to bilocate. Lastly, there was an intriguing article in the November 2025 issue of Discovery magazine titled, "It's About Time." This article focused on a 2024 study by Lorenzo Gavasino, a mathematician at Vanderbilt University. Gavasino's study supported the conclusion if a human time traveled, essentially entering a different state of time, they would have no memory of the event. And this is because the entropy from thermodynamics would erase the normal memory process. This article is very interesting because it validates my personal experience. When you're removed from your time stream and returned to your original state, You have a law of entropy regarding your cellular structure and memories formed through neurons in the brain. Everything maintains itself in a linear path. Interestingly, though, Gavasino overlooked the fact that memory is not solely formed within the physical body or brain. In his book, Embodied Mind, Thomas Verney presents research suggesting that the mind appears to be larger than the brain, and memory is retained by this larger mind, which couldn't describe my own scenario better. As a perceptive teenager, I was a nature guy, wired to the environment. The idea that simply walking home across a field and having a contact event without my knowledge still seems ludicrous to me to this day. However, this is the ultimate scientific explanation how non human intelligence contact occurs without our knowing. The law of entropy retains our normal experience, our normal brain processes, and normal memory creation through linear time, while a contact event occurs in timelessness, engaging our individual larger mind. Meaning, when we became aware of the contact, it would appear as fragmented memories, or as if from a dream, but were in fact formed from this larger mind without our human brain's normal processing.